Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is Saturday, the 14th of February, and depending on where you are around the world, it's Valentine's Day. So a happy Valentine's Day to you and your missus or your husband. Now, we are going to get on with the show today. This is a Maple Finance update. We've got a lot to get through. If I just fix this for 1 second, which seems to have gone a little bit awry. Give me a minute. 1 second while we fix this. There we go. We're going to go through Maple Finance today. Now, this is an update stream that we do basically twice a month. We are bi-monthly with this, and it's basically to go over who Maple Finance are, go over the Syrup token, talk about the latest updates from the last couple of weeks. And we do these updates, we stream them live on Binance Square and other places. We do that because there are so many incremental updates that happen with Maple Finance in 2 weeks that it's impossible to keep on top of making video content or tweets or messages on Binance Square. Even though we do try and keep on top of them, it's quite difficult. And the easiest way to do it is basically to spend 1 hour explaining what Maple Finance have been up to over the last 2 weeks. So today we are going to go over Maple Finance, who they are, what they do, what their products are. We're then going to look at June Analytics, an independent third party, to see how well Maple Finance is performing with regards to the numbers on an external platform. We're then going to take a look at 3 or 4 real articles that have happened in the last 2 weeks. Now, believe it or not, the last 2 weeks we've seen, obviously, was it the February the 6th crash, which was only 8 days ago. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about their yield-bearing dollar assets. We're going to be talking about Aave growth. We're going to be talking about Maple Finance making an appearance on the Binance Smart Chain. Yes, that's going to be covered as well. We're also going to go through a report which they publish about their stablecoins, and then we're going to look at the Syrup token. We're going to have a look at the price targets for Syrup. We're going to see where a good accumulation zone will be. We're also going to see where a good profit take zone will be. So there's a lot to get into today. What would be useful is if I was actually in the right place on the screen. Good morning, Mags. Now, for those of you watching, one thing to bear in mind that I need to say now before we start. The best 2 questions asked to me today by you guys will win Syrup. So in chat, ask me 1, 2, 3 questions. You can ask me as many questions as you want, but I'm only going to pick 2 questions. Now, I know a lot of you are shy. I know a lot of you don't know a lot about Maple Finance. That's fine. Ask anything you want. It can be about the team. It can be about their stablecoin. It can be about their token. It can be about anything to do with Maple Finance. Ask those questions in chat. And if I pick you, you have won some Syrup token. And we did give away, I think Syrup USDC was given away, or USDT was given away 2 weeks ago. This week, I think, given the prices in the markets, I think it would be a better idea for me to give you all some Syrup tokens. So, you've heard what you need to do. Why have I fallen so far down the screen? There we go. I'm back. Anyway, before we get into the show, just a quick reminder, Bitcoin has had a bit of a bounce. We're back below $70,000. Ethereum is nearly back at $2,100. XRP is back over $1.40. The markets are having a breather. Solana's back at $86. Bit of a shame because it didn't quite reach the level of $76 I wanted it to get to yesterday to do our next dollar cost average in, which is a bit of a shame. 24-hour gainers, there's a lot of green. Inflation's come in good. CPI, I think it was yesterday, came in really, really well. Below expectations. So again, a lot of good gainers down there, including Aave. Keep an eye on Aave. That's a good token. Losers, MYX Finance, they are pretty much volatile. They are either the top of the gainers or the top of the losers. And then that's pretty much it. Everything else in here is stablecoins. So again, a great day. So first of all then, we're going to start with some questions. Actually, no, before we start, I should say hello to people in chat. Mary Jesus, Damien, Musab, Harshil, Imandun, Go Dolls, how are you? I hope you're well. Remember what I've said. Ask questions in chat, the best 2 questions we will give Syrup tokens to. So, ask questions. The best 2 questions will be answered at the end of the stream. Now then, who are Maple Finance? Maple Finance are the largest on-chain asset manager in the world. What does that mean? Well, they basically provide financial products to institutions. That's how they get the institutions involved in onboarding them to crypto. How do you get involved, or how can you get involved? You can hold Syrup and you can hold their $2 yielding assets, Syrup USDC and Syrup USDT. So they're kind of bringing institutions and retail, or degens in your case, together. That's how it works. One, by providing the over-collateralized loans, the other providing you the yield from the interest on those over-collateralized loans. It's a very straightforward system that we're going to go through in a minute. Now, assets under management, they topped out at $5 billion back in October. Now, they have fallen down. We were over $4 billion, I think $4.24 billion on the last stream. They're down to $3.82 billion. They're not shrinking. Their assets under management, the majority of the assets under management are, of course, Bitcoin. So what happens is, as the price of Bitcoin has come down from 126 to 100 to 70 to $60,000, so have the assets under management. That's simply how it works. It's not the value of the dollars in their business, it's the value of the Bitcoin on their books. That's why it's dropped. But I do expect this to go back over $4 billion. Again, there's going to be probably a short-term bounce over the next maybe 5, 6, 7 weeks. And then maybe if my projection comes true and Bitcoin does go to $50,000, then maybe we even break below, or we touch $3 billion this year. But my overall goal for Maple Finance is to clear $10 billion. Maybe no time soon, but certainly in the near future, probably within the next 12 months. They're certainly going to hit 10 billion. 10 billion was my target for the end of this year. I'm not going to change that opinion, because as they grow as a business, as they take on more Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter the price of the Bitcoin too much, because their business is growing. So that's the way I would look at that. Now, their flagship products are the Syrup USDC and Syrup USDT products. They are liquid yielding dollars. They are not stable coins. A stable coin, Circle and Tether, they are backed 1-to-1 with the US Treasuries. Syrup USDC, or USDX we're going to call it from now on, they are backed by the over-collateralized loans, and as such, they actually increase in value over time. The NAV goes up. So if you hold $1 of Syrup USDX today, in 365 days' time, that will be worth that will be worth $104.50, because at this moment in time, the APY is 4.5%. It has been 5.2. It has been, I think, 6.1. But again, that is a variable rate that changes with the market. So when we go through a downturn, that number is likely to fall. When we go back up, hopefully towards the end of the year, that's going to break above 5%, go back to maybe 5.5% in the future. So that's how it works. Your dollar that you hold in Syrup USDX, you don't have to do anything, and it will just go up in value. If you want to redeem it at any time, you can, of course, sell it on Binance, or you can go directly to the Maple Finance website and redeem it there for whichever one you hold. So if you hold Syrup USDC, you can redeem it for USDC. If you hold Syrup USDT, you get the idea. So that's their flagship product. But they also have other products. They have the Maple Institutional Secured Lending. This is a different product to the 2 tokens we've just shown you. That's paying 6.7%. And down here, these are just some statistics which we're going to go through in a minute when we look at June. Basically to cross-check what Maple Finance say with what's actually happened. So they've recently broken $22 billion in loans. The rest of the numbers don't change. If you are a KYC AML accredited client, you get your loan in 24 hours. They've got over 100 borrowers on their books, and they've issued over 400 loans. I'd expect this to be updated at some point in the near future, because I think the borrowers and the loans issued will be changing pretty soon. So that's pretty much it from who they are. The flagship product for you is this. That's their flagship product. Now, they do have a lot of other things that we can talk about as well. They have their syrup native token, which we're going to look at the end. So if you look at the menu on your screen, you will see that we have token at the end. Good morning to Kishan. I hope you are well. I hope you are well. So we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end. But what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go over and have a look at June, because again, the easiest way to do an update is to go over to look at the stats first, and then we can start talking about the Aves of this world and things like that. So this is June Analytics. This is an independent third party who basically analyze the statistics of various different companies. The one we're interested in today is Maple Finance. Now, on here, you are going to see a breakdown of each part of their business, which we're going to go through in a minute. But I want to kind of cast your minds back. To September, October, maybe even August last year. And I sat here and I said to you, there will come a time when this doesn't have a 45-degree angle growth, and they will plateau. I said, we are likely to see it plateau when the market plateaus, because if the all-time high for Bitcoin is going to be in November, which is when I said it was going to be, then we're going to hit that in November, and then going into 2026, we're going to start to fall away. It's played out how we said it was going to play out, with less of an impact than the price of Bitcoin. And what I mean by that is Bitcoin's come down 50%, 45% as we speak. But Maple Finance's business hasn't, because Maple Finance's business is growing. But what's masking the growth of the business is the price of Bitcoin. I never said or never believed that the business would slow down, but the assets under management, which of course is Bitcoin, that's going to reduce in value. So if they have 2,000 Bitcoin today, that will be worth a lot less on the charts than the 1,500 Bitcoin, for example, that they had back in October. So that's what you got to understand. And I talk about this a lot when we talk about TVL on Solana, for example, or Ethereum. It's all well and good telling me that there's $20 billion of TVL on Solana. I don't care about that. It's all well and good telling me there's $100 billion worth of Ethereum locked away on Ethereum. I don't care about that. The value is irrelevant. The number of Ethereum locked away, the number of Solana locked away, and the number of Bitcoin held by Maple Finance, that's what matters. Because what you're doing is you're judging the performance of a blockchain or on a business. You're judging it based on the performance against the dollar. And that's the issue. And the way I can basically prove what I'm saying is if I show you the protocol revenue down here. Now, we topped in October. What was it, October 6th or something like that? Now, the massive correction to the downside that happened in November. Let me just make sure I've got this right. Yeah. So basically, this is January's performance. December, November, October. So the October drop, that's this one. But guess what? In November and December, they made more revenue than in the Bitcoin all-time high month of October. So this shows a business plateauing. This shows a business growing. But the plateau is false information. Now, what would be great, and again, we don't have that information, it would be great for me to show you maybe the amount of Bitcoin that they have on their books so you can see they're growing. But I don't have that information. All I have is June. Maybe I can reach out to them and ask them about this because I think it's important. But $3.8 billion in today's market is a lot more than $5 billion in October's market. because it's only really a 20% correction to the downside in terms of asset value, whereas the market has come down 45-50%. So I hope that kind of explains why Maple Finance is still growing, but it's being masked by, of course, the macro, the market around it. But I still expect them to go back over $4 billion by the time we do the next stream, and we've had our little bit of a bounce. Bitcoin is trying to get above $70,000. If we get above $70,000, for me, $74,000 is the next target, and that's a serious 7.5-8% jump up from that. Outstanding loans, not super important to look at right now. Down here, interest paid, basically the interest paid to you guys is $136 million. Now, well, the last time I did this, 2 weeks ago, this was $124 or $126 million. So they've basically, I think, paid out, I think it was maybe 126. They've paid out about, I would say conservatively, $10 million in the last 2 to 4 weeks, depending on when this was updated, which is in real time, but I'm not sure this element is updated in real time. Total loan originations are coming in at $21.7 billion. Now, of course, the website is showing us $22 billion. Now, there is a discrepancy, but it's, what is it, a 3% discrepancy? I don't really care about that. This one on June could be showing you the loans based on the value of the Bitcoin, for example. 22 billion on the website could be showing you the USDC valuation. I don't know, but the numbers are going to differ slightly. If they differ in a major way, that's a problem. So I'm not too worried about that. Now, again, down here, what's so important about the protocol revenue is 25% of this is used to buy back the Maple token syrup. So if they are making $2.5 million a month, then 625,000 of that is being used to buy back the Maple tokens. And at the price we are now, that's what, about 2 million tokens, maybe a little bit more. So again, another thing to bear in mind, the value of a project does not necessarily reflect in the value of a token. Okay, they're not shares in a business. Okay, they're independent. They work independently of each other. We've talked about this in the past when we looked at Ondo. Ondo had a very small TVL and a massive token price. Now Ondo has 5x'd its assets under management, or 4x'd its assets under management, and its token has fallen by 75%. I think there is an opportunity, which is why we cover this. I think there is an opportunity for Maple Finance, or for you to get into the Maple Finance token and really do well out of it. Now, before we go any further, what I forgot to do. Good morning, KB. Good morning, Capital Cargo London. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are all well. I forgot there is this really cool new tool on here where I can basically I can tag a token. There we go. So I can actually tag the token on the Binance Square stream, which is absolutely incredible. Now, we have some questions, which I should probably write down. We've got questions from Hassan and Hafexa and DeFi Mind. So what I'm going to do is very quickly copy your questions. I'm going to then read them here later on, and then I'm going to pick the best question, and the best question, or the two best questions, will win a prize. I'm going to be giving away Syrup USD. Sorry, no, I'm not giving away Syrup USDC. I'm going to be giving away Syrup tokens themselves if you win, because I think when we were coming down, it was a better idea to give you USDC. As I think we're going to have a little bit of a pump up, it would make more sense to give you Syrup tokens. So that's what we're going to be giving away. Right, so we've got 3 questions so far. That's not relevant. Well, not relevant, but that's nothing to do with this. Okay, so they're the questions that we've got from here. Remember that you guys over somewhere else that I can't say the name of for fear of the Binance Square AI picking it up, but the red square place, if you've got questions about Maple Finance or syrup token, ask them in chat. I will then add you to the list of questions that we've got, and 2 questions will be read out and answered at the end of the stream. So make sure to do that. Good morning, Danny, as well. Danny, ask a question. Mags, ask a question. Feel free. I'll throw you in the hat. I'm not going to guarantee anybody winning, but I will ask what I think are the 2 best questions. So that's where we are with June. We are 20 past 11. I've got to remember that we have a lot to get through, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with this. So, how well does Maple Finance's tokens, how well do they compare to others in the market? That's a really good question to ask. Nobody did ask it, by the way, but it's a really good question to ask. And this is DeFi Llama. Yet again, another third-party website, a very trusted third-party website, DeFi Llama. And this shows you, there's a lot of text up here, but basically these are, get rid of that one as well, we don't need that. Okay, this shows you all the yield-bearing dollars. Okay, so all the yield-bearing dollars in the world, and we have a collection on here. Well, bring it down a little bit so I can show you as many as I can. Okay, so clearly you can see USDC and USDT from Aave are up there. You can see Merkle is up there. You can see Ondo Yield Asset USDYC. Again, just because we're streaming about Maple Finance, let me make something very, very clear. I am massively bullish on Ondo. I love Ondo as a company. I love them as a product. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Tribalism has no place in crypto. Okay? You do not worship at the Church of Ondo or the Church of Maple Finance or as most people see, the Church of Bitcoin. Okay? This is not a cult. Okay? You are to assess things in the cold light of day and use data and facts to push your decisions forward. Not some balding guy on a Saturday morning on Valentine's Day talking to you about stablecoins, okay? You take everybody's opinion on board. That's why we believe that giving you the most honest information we can is what we should do. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and I haven't brought it up before, is I didn't know they did this. I mentioned it in a live stream maybe 2 weeks ago, and I went, that's really quite cool. And at the time, I think Maple Finance were maybe 3rd and 6th, 3rd and 7th. I think that was the case. But basically, Maple Finance tweeted this out last night. I thought, oh, I forgot about that. Had a look. It's a great chart because it shows you everybody, okay? So this is the race. Rather than pointing the camera simply at Maple Finance, this is the entire race. You can see all the horses in the race. Now, USDS is number 1. Ethena is number 2. But my argument, and you can disagree with me as much as you want, if you combine USDC and USDT from Maple, which to all intents and purposes is the same product, that puts them at 4.56 billion, which would make them the 2nd biggest yield-bearing dollar asset in the world. Okay, so for me, Maple are number 2 behind Sky Lending. Now, Sky Lending, remember, they're a rebrand from another company, which the name forgets me, but they are a rebrand. Ethena, again, I'm not going to sit here and bash somebody because of the fact that it's a Maple Finance stream, but I didn't like Ethena when it started out. I thought it played a very high-risk game to grow. It was paying 18 to 20% APR, which was absolutely unsustainable. Now, to give them their dues, that's now 3.29%, okay? And they are now what I would consider to be out of the high-risk category and into the medium-risk category. I would put Aave and Maple into the medium to low-risk category. So low, medium, high, low, something around that. And again, you've got to look at the APY. Sky Lending, Maple, Merkle, even Ondo Assets. Anything really paying you more than 3.5% on a stable coin, in my opinion, is sustainable. The US treasuries, the US debt, I think's about 3.5%, 4%. It's something in that range. So if you've got a stable coin paying you 4%, sorry, not 4%, 5% or 6%, where's that extra yield coming from when the yield that they're receiving is coming in at 3.5 to 4%? That's the question I ask. Now, of course, you have incentives. USD1 has incentives going on at the minute. Binance has incentives going on at the minute. Incentives are different. I'm talking about the base APY. That is 4% on your USDT, okay? And that is, for me, sustainable. Everything on this screen now is sustainable. So don't feel that you know, any one of these is outlandish. These are sustainable APYs, and that's where we needed to get to in the market. So fair enough. But the point of this is, visually, you can see where Maple sits within the market. What's so important about this? 12 months ago, Maple wasn't even on the screen. Pretty much everybody else was. Aave certainly was. Athena, Sky, they were all there. Maple wasn't even anywhere on the screen. Probably Maple, and no disrespect to them, I don't even believe Maple were in the top 10 this time last year. That's what you need to bear in mind. The growth of the business and the business model are exceptional in the market that they are in. So again, they're in a race with other horses, and they've gone from not in the top 10 to 2 in the top 5 in a year. So the same people, the same race, the same products, they're now 2 of the top 5, and they're actually second if you combine them. That's pretty impressive growth. Now, one of the reasons for this growth, and one of the reasons that I believe we've been quite lucky to partner with Maple Finance, and I say that from a place of pride, okay? When we started out, we didn't really want to be doing meme coins. We didn't really want to be doing all of these kind of things, but there was no sensible businesses to talk about because nobody wanted to talk about Chainlink. Nobody wanted to talk about these other things. So we had to start where the attention was. And all along, we wanted financial products, which might not be your bag, which is fine. I get that. But they're going to live, for not forever, but they're going to live for like decades. And we were waiting as a channel, as a brand, we were waiting basically for real world assets to appear because that's where we're from. I was there 2008, believe it or not. That was a bad time. We've had worse times since, believe it or not. So the thing I like about Maple Finance is the strategy. And this might sound really weird, but I like their strategy because it's what I would do. Okay? So if you came to me and said, we want to grow our business, give me a roadmap, I would be, you start on Ethereum, you build up on Ethereum, you bridge to layer 2s off Ethereum, so the likes of Arbitrum. So you've got your Ethereum and EVM built there because that's where the liquidity is. Liquidity is key. Then I would go to Solana and I would go to Binance Smart Chain. They would be my next 2 moves, but Solana first. They went to Camino Finance, Orca, Radium. They are there. So that's where they went. Then I would have gone to Binance Smart Chain. They went to Base, which is technically a layer 2 of Ethereum. Technically. So they went to Base because of obviously the noise around them. And now they're coming to Binance Smart Chain. So they've followed the logical path, which is my path, obviously, because I follow the logical path. But that's exactly what I would do. But the partners they've picked, that's the next layer on top. So who do you partner with? You partner with Aave. Who do you partner with over on Solana? Well, in my opinion, you've got 2 choices. You've got Jupiter, which is kind of like an all things to all men type of thing, but it was a DEX aggregator. And you got Camino Finance, which is kind of like the Aave of Solana. Okay, so you've got them. But then they also brought in Pendle and things like that. So that's what I would have done, and that's what they've done. Okay, so that's why I think it's worked, because I'm not saying that my idea was the best idea. I'm saying my idea was the logical path. You follow liquidity. You follow the liquidity. And then in theory, you should get in touch with the user base because the user base should be where the liquidity is. Well, they've done all that. They did all that last year. So during the bull run, they built all the right partnerships. Now, the thing with Aave is Aave is like the posh nightclub, right? It's the posh nightclub with the queue of people down the road and the queue of bouncers down the road kicking people out of the queue. Right, you're not coming in. You've got trainers on. You're not coming in because you're from Nottingham. You're not coming in because you're from Scotland. All that kind of stuff, right? You don't just walk up to the door of Aave. It's Maple Finance, let me in. No. You have to earn your spurs, as it's called. You have to earn your right of passage. You have to prove that you are a legitimate bona fide business. And Maple Finance spent considerable time working on the relationship with Aave. And towards the end of last year, and we covered this as well, Aave opened the door and let Maple Finance in. Now, it's a benefit to Aave to have somebody like Maple Finance's Syrup USDX tokens on board. Absolutely. But it's an absolute blue check mark next to Maple Finance to be listed on Aave. And it's a great symbiotic relationship, in my opinion. So that is kind of what's important about this. Just keeping an eye on chat, by the way. I've got a few more questions, which I'm going to add to the list in a minute. So these are the metrics. This only came out a week ago. This is an update. So they didn't go live that long ago, number one. But number two, they've had $750 million, nearly three quarters of $1 billion in inflows, three major ecosystems. So again, Aave exists in multiple places. It's on Ethereum, Base, and Plasma. Plasma, we've talked about to death. There's about 4 or 5 stablecoin layer ones right now. I think I've said before, maybe 2, maybe 3 of them survive. Maybe they all survive. But they are specific blockchains for stablecoins. And why is that important? If you go to a restaurant, you have to eat the menu that the restaurant serves you. You have to eat the starters, the mains, and the puddings. Okay? But if you build your own restaurant, you can have your own menu. And if your menu is tailored to a certain group of people, let's say fish lovers. So you open a fish restaurant, serves fish, maybe shellfish, maybe prawns, maybe a little bit of sushi along the way, whatever it might be. That's what stablecoin layer ones are. They are specific restaurants serving specific clients. And they happen to be massive, large institutions to allow Plasma, for example, to have its own menu, its own set of rules. And Maple Finance comes along because Maple Finance can offer a yield. So work this out. You have institutions using Maple Finance for loans. You have institutions using Plasma and ARC and Layer 1 and Stable, for example. Maple appears in all of those different places and you can earn a yield. So if you're sitting on $100 million, which you're not going to be using for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you can swap it or you can put it into an LP with Syrup and maybe earn $1 million on that or $100,000 on that in the time it's locked away, whatever it might be. That gives a real utility to Plasma. Now, Aave are now on Plasma. Maple Finance are on Plasma with Aave. It's all a kind of really nice symbiotic relationship between the stablecoin blockchain, Aave, and Maple Finance, because Maple Finance's Syrup token on its Syrup USDX on its own isn't going to really generate the yield for Plasma. The money and the system that Aave has built, the liquidity that Aave has built, that sitting on Plasma with Maple Finance is going to give you the yield because you compare it with different stablecoins and stuff like that. So it's a great product. They do have, as I said, the USDC and USDT. People might wonder why there are 2 different yield-bearing dollars. It's really simple. There are Circle-centric blockchains, and I would say Solana falls into that category. There are Tether-centric blockchains, and I would say Ethereum, Plasma, they fall into that category. So you kind of need the 2 to work across the whole ecosystem. That's why they've got them. Let's give you a little bit of information about this. I'm going to have to probably get a move on. Aave is the largest and most trusted DeFi protocol and lending network. It enables lending and borrowing across all key ecosystems and unlocks yield strategies at scale. Maple, the largest unsane asset. Two major bottlenecks remain for financial apps that have solved distribution, yield sustainability, and scalability. Maple's deployment on Aave addresses both. Again, one of the reasons is Maple Finance got big enough to be on Aave. That's how I read that. So the integration was launched in September. So between September and now, so in 4 months, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months, they've added $750 million. Again, this is great news. We don't have enough time to go into it in any great depth. We're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit in a minute about Binance Smart Chain. But again, the question is, what happens when things go south? What happens when we have a market crash like we've just had? Well, that is exactly what Maple talks about head on. And they don't shy away from that. Now, just give me 1 second. We've got questions coming in. We've got questions coming in over here as well. Okay, we will get to the questions. Maple is built for weeks like these. Maple's loan book performed strongly throughout this week's volatility. All loans remained over-collateralized and healthy. 70 margin calls were cured in 2.5 hours, basically. A number of loans were actively managed and closed. Borrowers added $280 million in collateral. Now, I covered this on a live stream, and I did say to this at the time. I questioned this. Okay? Now, there's two ways to read this. There is the cynical way, which was the way I read it, and then there is the Maple way. Now, the cynical person in me, I read that as they were liquidated. I read that as their clients simply didn't get back in time and Maple liquidated them. That's how I read it because of the way it was worded. So I went back to Maple and said, listen, what does this mean? And what it means is these were the loans that were kept open. So we'll go over what collateral is in a minute. 70 people were contacted and said, listen, you need to add more Bitcoin, for example, to top up your deposit to keep your loan open. Those clients, those 70 clients, they deposited the funds to keep the loans open. A number of them, a number of other loans, they decided to not keep their loan open. So what they did was they repaid their loan and got their collateral back. That's what that means. So actively managed was actively managed between Maple and the client. That's what I got the clarity on, because that's important to understand. And again, over $280 million in collateral was added. Now, again, why does this matter? Because if everything is perfect in a bull market, everything breaks in a bear market. And when I mean everything breaks in a bear market, if you build for the bull run, it will collapse in the bear market. If you build with a bear market mentality, with a worst case scenario in mind, you've all seen World War Z, haven't you? The 11th man, the guy who has to disagree with everybody, the guy that builds the walls to stop them from the zombies from coming in. That's the mentality you need when you're building a business, because everybody can make money in a bull run. You can go and buy any token you want and you'll be Warren Buffett for a year. Great on you. But now is the time when it hits the fan and people panic. And this is the time that if you've built the correct structure, you will not liquidate blue chip clients because you work with them. You have a policy in place, you have alerts, you have triggers. Now, the collateral is basically a very simple thing that you need to understand. Never ever invest in anything that is under collateralized. And what I mean by that is, if you put up $10,000 of Bitcoin to take out a $20,000 loan, that's 50% of the loan in collateral. So if I want to borrow £500 off you, $500 off you, and I give you a $200 watch, and I don't pay you back, you've got $200 left. Over collateralized means I give you a $30,000 Rolex and you give me a $10,000 loan. That's over collateralized. I've given you more than the loan I'm getting. And in this case with Maple, If an institution wants to borrow $100 million, they have to stump up $200 or $300 million worth of Bitcoin to get that loan. That's how it works. You want to look at products that are over collateralized, and you can apply this to algorithmic stablecoins. You can go and look at how many assets does an algorithmic stablecoin have? Does it, if it's got a $2 billion market cap, how much in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatever else it's got, how much does it have? Does it have 2.5? Does it have 3? Does it have $4 billion worth of assets? They're the things you've got to ask yourself. So this is really important, and I'm never going to shy away from showing this, because this is the when it goes south moment. And believe you me, we've done 4 of these already, haven't we? Liberation Day. We had we've had 2. One in October and one in November. October the 10th, then we had one in November, and we've had another one now. So we've had 4 in 5 months. And to date, Maple Finance have not liquidated a single client. Not once. So, and we've had, these have been big corrections to the downside. So again, it's important again to understand when things go south, it works. That's what matters. Yeah? You can buy the nicest, sexiest car with the best brakes in the world, but you're never going to know if the brakes are going to work until the moment comes where you have to hit them. And that's what Maple Finance has got in place with its risk management. And that's important to understand as well. As all the nice things about yield and about growth, it's also nice to understand that when it goes wrong, they don't go wrong. They manage accordingly. They deal with it accordingly. They contact their clients. There's a relationship there. There's a communication line there. That is how they work. And for me, absolutely fantastic. We have what appears to be 6 questions so far. Good morning, Leo. I hope you're well. Right then, so let's move on a little bit. Again, going back to the strategy that I would have had, I'd have gone Ethereum to Solana to Binance Smart Chain. That would have been my path. They kind of did the same thing with Base thrown in for good measure. Now again, Maple Finance aren't going to turn up one day on Binance Smart Chain and go, here we are. They're going to do exactly the same thing they did with Solana. They're going to find a partner or partners on that blockchain. And in this case, Venus Protocol. The BNB chain is the home for scalable high-performance DeFi. With low fees and fast transactions, it enables projects like Venus Flux to deliver capital-efficient liquidity at scale. Down here, Maple has facilitated billions in institutional loans across multiple chains. Now they're bringing their expertise to Venus Flux on the BNB chain. So again, Maple don't just rock up on Solana or Base. They find partners native to the chain and work with them. Exactly how it should be. Aave appears on Mike blockchain next week. Maple Finance can use Aave on Mike blockchain. That's how it works. So they're using their partners, because their partners have built the DeFi platforms. They're using their partners to access all of these different chains. Exactly how it should be. You don't expect Maple Finance. They're not going to get the traction if they just add Binance Smart Chain to the Maple Finance website. It's not going to work. They need the liquidity of people like Venus and Aave and Camino. That's why it works. Again, so they've gone to the Binance Smart Chain. There's a few other partners on here that Venus are talking about. So this is who they've got together in their team. Again, I've seen several different metrics in the last 24 hours about which chains are the most popular, well-used chains. And you have Solana up there, and you have Binance Smart Chain up there. You actually have Tron up there as well. And again, if we're going to be talking about future possibilities, why would Maple Finance rule out going to the Tron blockchain? Now again, I've got my personal opinions on Tron and Justin Sun, and for this stream, they will remain in my head, okay? But you can't deny the amount of liquidity that is on Tron. And, you know, Maple Finance, it's like the sniffer dog that gets the truffles. It just goes hunting liquidity. And God help me if anyone from Maple Finance watches this back and sees me comparing Maple Finance to a sniffer dog. But they go and look for truffles, and the truffles is liquidity. So it would make sense, really. Now they have Binance Smart Chain, now they have Base, now they have Solana. It would make sense for them to look at Tron. It would. And again, would I blame them? No. I think there's something like 81 billion in stable coins over there, or 81 billion in liquidity over on Tron. So why wouldn't Maple Finance head over there? I certainly would. So anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. How long do we have left? 11:45. Got 15 minutes. Right. Let me get these questions copied over with the person that has asked them. So we've got a question from Mags. Let's just paste these in here. Just give me a second. We've got one from Leo. Now, again, I'm going to pick two to read out, and those two people are going to win Syrup token on Binance. So if you are on Binance, what we will do is I will say who has won, and then you need to basically put your Binance user ID, if that's what it's called, UID. You need to put that into chat so I can then send you the Syrup tokens. So we've got 6 questions so far over there. Just give me a second. I'm going to go and look. We don't want Binanceception now, do we? Do we have any over here? I've got let me just check I've actually got all the right questions. DeFi Mind. There we go. Okay. Right. This is your final call on Baxi. Hello. The final call for the Binance Square viewers. If you want to win some Syrup tokens, ask a question in chat now. Now, we've got 6 questions. We've got Hassan, DeFi, and Hafexa's questions from Binance Square. You know what I'm going to ask them to do? I'm going to ask them to allow us to pin a message the way we can somewhere else. Because if I could pin the message, you'd all see it instead of just catching it there and then. Anyway. Let me very quickly move on. What have we got to do, Maple? Right. I don't really, you know what? I don't really want to look at this report. It's great and everything, but I think we should get on with probably looking at the Binance chart. Sorry, looking at the Syrup chart, and then we can actually see where we think the price is going to go. But I'll bring it up anyway so you can see it. And again, this brings back memories of when we used to review projects on a certain platform, and all we had to review projects was the white paper. And this brings back memories. This was about 2 years ago. We used to get contacted by the exchange, and they'd say, "Can you review this project?" And they'd give us a website, a Twitter account, and a white paper. And we'd have to stream for, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour talking about this project. And it was all about the white paper. And the problem was, I'm going off on a tangent here. The problem was the majority of the white papers and tokenomics hadn't been finished, or the tokenomics were horrific. And by the end of the stream, I would be berating the project and just saying, this is a pilot. You don't touch this. Don't go anywhere near this project. But the project was paying for those reviews. And the thing is, I've got to have a little bit of honesty, okay? I am not... what Ben Cowan said yesterday, if your opinion is paid for, then it's worthless. That's what he said. And I disagree. And my argument is, if your pre-agreed opinion is paid for, then it is worthless. I don't agree that anyone paying you for your opinion, that opinion is worthless. If I ask you to come and look at my wall because there's a crack in it, and I've got to pay a call-out fee, and you come out and tell me there's a crack in your wall, that doesn't mean that opinion is worthless, does it? If you ask me to review your project and I find fault in your project, I'm going to call it out. And that's the way I've always been. Maybe he's referring to the people who wear baseball caps backwards and say, yo, D-Gen's on camera, maybe. But anyway, what's important here is basically Maple Finance produce reports. I believe it's on a monthly basis. It might be a quarterly basis on their projects. It's not quite an attestation, but it's not far off. And they go into depth on here. And again, if I wanted to write breaking news type information on this kind of stuff, this is what I would go and look at, because it gives away a lot about where they are with their with their yield bearing dollars and stuff like that. So basically, it goes in here, talks about various different things. There's more to it than that, of course. You got the monthly updates on here. You can see every single month has been covered, going back into time immemorial. They're very well written. Again, we don't need to go through this, but let me make something very, very clear. If you want to do your own research on Maple Finance, which I would strongly recommend you do, then this is the kind of stuff you want to go and look at. Okay? And again, I could do an entire top-down review of Maple Finance in 1 hour, and maybe it would take me 15 minutes to go and ask Grok to prepare a list of things and resources to look at to go away and analyze Maple Finance. So you do it yourself. You can spend 2 hours, do a full review of a project that you like the look of, and it will probably throw up stuff like this. You can go and have a look at it. I wouldn't blame you for doing that. Don't take my word for anything I've told you. Again, I'm only giving you my opinion. Right, let's move on. We are going to get on to the chart. Now, if it's white on the screen, I'm going to be very, very sad. If it's still dark, it means the Oracle hasn't been near the chart. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. It's not been... Right. Okay, let's go to the daily. We're coming in at 27 cents. Now, I just want to point something out to you and to the Oracle, in fact. Mags will remember this. I hope Mags remembers this. I said last time we did this, was it about 2 weeks ago, Mags? I said that syrup would come down to 27 cents, did I not? Is that not why I said, Mags? If Mags is in chat, do you remember that? Right, where are we? Now, I'm going to claim moral victory on this because this is the last time we've streamed. Now, the Oracle, he said we would come down here. We were very close to the Oracle being right, okay? But as of the time of this recording, we're at 27 cents, so I'm claiming victory. The Oracle can claim victory all he wants for it going almost to 22 cents, but I'm taking 27 cents as my win. Now, there's a lot of lines on this chart, and we're going to get rid of most of them because they were drawn last time I did this. So let's get rid of some of these lines. Okay, leave them on and get rid of them. Okay. So, what do we do to trade syrup? That's the question. Number one, if you want to understand how to trade syrup, you watch the Oracle. So, when we stream on Binance and somewhere else, there are two coloured thumbnails. There is a green one for the Oracle, and there's a purple one for me. If you see a green thumbnail called crypto trading or crypto charts or anything like that, that's the Oracle. And he will give you full tops and bottoms for syrup. And obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else like that. So, you follow him if you want true TA. I simply go off previous price action and have a look at the fibs, have a look at the basic stuff. Now, if we recover from where we are now, I think there is a little bit of beautiful confluence going on at that price right there, which is about 35 cents. We have previous resistance, bull market support band, fib level. Look at that. It looks like Mickey Mouse. That is the Mickey Mouse pattern. We're going to call that the MMP, okay? Mickey Mouse pattern. So we've got three things, in my opinion, converging. If we get the recovery that I think we're going to get, because I don't think we're going to keep going down forever, I think we're going to get a rally, small rally to the upside, and then we're going to dump again. So Bitcoin has done this, rejected off the bull market support band, absolutely thunked to the downside. We're going to have a small relief rally to anywhere between 74 and 80 odd thousand, and then maybe we go sideways for a bit, maybe we come down for a bit, but then when we get towards October, November, we start to rally to the upside. So Bitcoin has come down, rejected by the bull market support band, absolutely thunked to the downside. We're going to come back up, which is this is the move we're in now. This is the move we're in now. then we're either going to go sideways or down again. I don't know which one I'm going to do. I don't have a crystal ball. But if we do get that rally, dead cat bounce, relief rally, whatever you want to call it, then I would expect a very simple move from syrup back towards 35 cents. Now, that's a 33% move. Is it a 33% move? 9. Yeah, call it a 33% move. 30% move to the upside. That's what I think could very likely happen. We have come down to this range here, which I think is a good range for us to come down to. And we were awfully close to hitting what the Oracle said. He did say 22 cents. We got to 23.4. That's not a million miles away, you know. But I did say 27 cents because that is, of course, where we were in November. And again, a little bit like the truffles, prices seek out previous experiences, like going back to an ex, okay? This is the ex here. You've got a new girlfriend. You're all happy. Things go south with your new girlfriend because it's Valentine's Day. You break up with her because it's Valentine's Day. You come down here. It's midday on Valentine's Day. You go back to your ex. That's where we are, okay? Mickey Mouse. Valentine's Day. It's all in here. It's all in here. Where would you get more than that? So that's where I think we're going to go on the chart. Now, how long do we have left? You didn't see any of that. So I'll go through it again very, very quickly. This is the previous drop. This is where we are now. We've come back to where I said, which was 27 cents. The Oracle, 21 cents, Mags has said. We'll forgive him. I think he said 22 to me off camera. We came to 23. He pretty much got it right, but it was a wick. I think we're at previous support. I think if we get the move to the upside, this is where we go to, which is about 35 cents. There's a few reasons why, and because you didn't see it, I'll highlight even more. There are many examples of why 35 cents is very, very strong support and resistance. Now, we have turned support into resistance, which makes me think that we don't go any higher than that. But also at this point is the bull market support band. So everything, and we've also got a fib level nearby as well, if we want to include that. So we've got a lot of things in this chart, and I'm going to do the one thing other again. This is your ex, okay? You get a new girlfriend. You're happy. You're happy. You've got a new girlfriend. Your girlfriend dumps you on Valentine's Day. You've been dumped on Valentine's Day because you didn't buy her any flowers or any roses. So what you do is you come crashing back down and you go and knock on the door of your ex because you know she's still single. That's it. That's the love triangle. That is the love triangle that you all wanted to know about. Nothing to do with, I don't know, Dallas. Nothing to do with Dynasty. It's all about syrup, okay? You've been with your ex, you've got a new girlfriend, your new girlfriend doesn't like you, she kicked you out, you go back with your ex. That's what the price of syrup has done. That is why you're down here like this, okay? Now then, I am going to come back off this, now that I have shown you that. And now we're back on here. Now we have some questions. Let me just check very quickly if we've got any more questions over on here. Let's have a look. I need to find a way to pin... Translate. Yeah. Next move. Thank you for those comments. Right. So I'm going to go with the 6 questions I've got, and I'm going to pick 2 to read out. And those 2 that I read out will win prizes. Right, well, we can't have that one. Or that one. Or that one. That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I've got 3 really good questions, and I'm going to try and work out which ones. You know what? I think I'm going to read all 3 out. I've got 3 questions. I've got 6 questions, but 3 of them are very good questions. Right. So the first question is, how does syrup revenue share and buyback mechanism work, and how much of it has been executed until now? How will this buyback affect the price of syrup? That's the first question, and that was from Mags. So congratulations, Mags, for this question. Now, there will be, by the way, Binance people, there are more than one location for people to ask questions. So the question that I've just read out is from a different place. So don't think I'm making questions up in my head to not pay these people, because these people are going to get paid on Binance, and I'm going to put a screenshot up of those people getting paid. Okay? So don't think I'm just making things up. The people who've asked questions in another place are going to get paid on Binance to prove that I have paid them. So 25% of revenue goes to buyback. That, at this minute in time, let's call it $2 million a month in revenue, $500,000 of buyback. The token, let's say the token's worth 25 cents. It's not, but let's say it is. That's 2 million tokens a month being bought off the market. 24 million tokens a year being bought off the market. And just to put that into context, I'm very quickly going to tell you now how many tokens that is, because I think that's quite a reasonable supply of tokens being bought up. Let me have a quick look. Here we go. Right. So Maple Finance's circulating supply is the circulating supply is 1.2 billion. They're going to be buying 24 million a year. That's about 2% of the tokens being bought at this price, at this revenue. I think that's sufficient. Now, the one thing I would say, the downside I would say to this is, I think if the price of syrup was $1.20, which is my target for it, I think if Maple Finance was at $1.20, I don't think the buyback would have a very big effect at all. And that's just me being honest. But if the Maple Finance token, I do see us go down, so stop talking, don't worry. I'd say it makes a massive difference at this price. I think it makes a negligible difference at $1.20. So if revenue doesn't change and the price goes to $1.20, I think it makes very little difference. But right now, the further the price of Maple goes down, the more tokens are bought back, the more impact it does have on the price. And again, you kind of want high revenue in a bear market, which is what they're heading towards, because all the prices will be depressed. They'll buy back a bunch of tokens and then suck the supply out of the market. So that's the effect it will have. So that's the question from Mags. That's the first one. The second one is from Leo. How does Syrup USDC's Aave integration impacts Maple's capital efficiency versus native pools? What I would say is this, and I said this before about Aave, is you don't get access to liquidity without using Aave. So the two problems are for let's say Maple, let's just use Maple Finance as an example. Maple Finance have two problems: not having access to liquidity and not being able to source loans to generate the tokens to list on Aave. So they have a double-edged sword. They need Aave's liquidity. So if they want to take on $1 billion worth of loans, they're going to need $1 billion of liquidity from the market. They don't get that if they do it themselves. They get that from using Aave. And what Aave and Camino do is they'll pair, or they'll include Syrup in the different loops and the different strategies. You could pair, for example, maybe you could pair Syrup with Athena, or you could pair Syrup with just USDC and it might pay you 3%. So they don't get where they want to go to without Aave. If they want to get to a certain cap, they'll become limited by their own ability. And as Maple Finance have shown, they simply don't just go places without using third parties. So they will use Aave, Camino, whatever else it might be. Now, if they use Camino, maybe they add $500 million worth of liquidity. If they use Aave, maybe they add $2 billion. Maybe if they go and use Plasma and other places in the future, maybe they end up with $10 billion worth of liquidity. Now, they might not be able to fill all of that demand because it sells out. You'll see, for example, you'll see that they have an initial $100 million on Camino, and it will fill. Then they'll grow it to $250 million, and then that will fill. Then they'll grow it to $300 million, and that will fill. That is basically Maple Finance saying, we have X in loans, we need Y in liquidity. We were going to give you $100 million worth of that liquidity. So then, when Maple gets to a certain size, they become a desirable instrument to have on your platform. So then, rather than Maple chasing Aave or chasing Camino, Camino and Aave will chase Maple, and then the roles will be reversed. But that's how I see it playing out. They need to work with bigger partners. If you're, what was that burger called? That burger made a beetroot. They were nowhere, and then they partnered with somebody like Burger King, and then just absolutely exploded. And again, they could have survived without the Burger King partnership. Beyond Burger, that's them. Beyond Burger were going to survive without Burger King. But tapping into Burger King tapped into millions and millions and millions of new customers. And those customers can go to a supermarket. Those customers can go direct. But those customers choose Burger King for whatever crazy reason to eat their burgers. So it's just more liquidity for their product, more demand for their product. So that's the second one. Now, third one is Cyberpunk Danny. Maple Finance versus traditional banks, enabling real-time transparent pricing and frictionless global capital flow. Could this just distribute opaque private credit markets and redefine capital allocation? Did you grok me? Have I been grokked? Because that's a tough question. What I would say is, or the angle I would take is, Mags does not get to invest into private credit markets right now. I don't get to invest into private credit markets right now. You don't get it. Why? Because the barriers to entry are you don't know X, Y, or Z, or you are not the third Earl Viscount of Dorchester. Okay, so you don't get to play at the table. And private credit markets are amazing for making money if you're in them, but you won't be in them. Maple Finance comes along and wants to basically shake this up and bring it on chain. And let me put this out there. There's never going to be a day where there are not private credit markets. There is never going to be a day where the Bank of America or Goldman Sachs don't have traditional banking. It's never going to go anywhere. Everyone keeps talking about disruption. Yes, disruption does not mean deletion. Disruption means it changes the market. You can still go and buy a book in a bookshop. You can still go and buy a film, just about. You can still go and buy a film. You will always be able to do those things for the foreseeable future. It doesn't mean it's going to finish. Now, private credit is also a very, very sensitive market. There are family units, families, surnames, who have 200 or 300 year old family businesses, basically, that you go to for a private loan, private credit. They're not going to go anywhere. Private credit on a larger scale with institutions that are audited and vetted and things like that, they're not the same as family offices. So the family offices, which I still think is private credit, by the way, they're never going to go anywhere. But I think institutions will come online because it removes the friction. So you will have access to tapping into private credit. You will have access. Mags will have access. I will have access. We can own $100 or $1,000 worth of investment in private credit. So I don't think it's going to disrupt per se. I think it's going to add to. I think it will grow the market, and it will grow the market because 500,000 people putting $1,000 in is a lot of money for private credit. If you've got 1 million people putting in $10,000, it's a hell of a lot of money. So that's why everybody's talking about going on chain. We're going on chain, we're going on chain, we're going on chain, we're going on chain because it removes all the barriers to entry. It removes all the friction. It automates a lot of the process. And that's where it will win. It will win by adding. It will not win by deleting what's already there. You've never had access to this, and now you will. That's the way I would look at it. So it adds a benefit to you and Mags and me. But it doesn't necessarily detract from the third Earl Viscount of Dorchester. He's still going to have his family office, who've still got £500 million, who are still going to do the private lines of credit, who are still going to get involved with the VC. I mean, again, VCs, all that kind of stuff, they're never going to go anywhere. They've got a closed shop. You've got no chance of getting in on that. Maybe there will be a product in the future which will be added, but apart from that, never. So, they're the 3 questions. Danny, Leo, and Mags, you've all won. What I need from you in chat is I need your Binance user IDs. So, if you don't drop them there, you can DM me, and I can't say where because we're not allowed to talk about that kind of stuff on streams, which is absolutely fine. But you can DM me, and we can talk about it. And this stream has really overrun. So what I might do on the next one in 2 weeks' time is I might I'm just getting the link so the people that have won can message me. Give me 1 second. There we go. Right. Next week, or sorry, not next week, in 2 weeks' time, when I do this again, we do the next update, it's going to probably be the very last day of February, I think. I'm going to cut a segment out, and I'm going to do the questions, because the questions kind of worked today. They were good questions, and it's nice to reward people on a Saturday morning. So Mags has won. Leo has won. And Danny has won. Yeah, Leo, Danny, and Mags, congratulations, you are winners. Now, for those of you screaming murder that you didn't get your question read out, I'm going to post the winners onto Binance Square this afternoon, so you can see that I've physically sent people their prizes. We are not in the habit of making up people's names so prizes don't get paid out. We will provide receipts when we remember, and where we remember on who we have paid out. And don't forget to keep watching. Follow us on Binance Square. There's a lot of people, thankfully, looking at the syrup charts. It's not a bad idea. Just checking if anybody else. Everybody's just looking at the syrup trade, which is great. Anyway, I should really go. It's your Valentine's Day. Now, actually, you know what? I'm going to do something I'm going to show you something which you might not want to see. And I know it's the end of the stream and you won't care. But if anybody on our group, which I'm not going to mention the name of, if anybody wants to see something really quite funny, I made my wife this. And I can actually play a little bit of it. This was my Valentine's Day present to my wife. And I'm not going to play it too often, and I'm not going to play it out loud, but I will, you know what, I might put it into the private group if anybody wants to watch it. Let me make this. This is quite funny, by the way. I think it's quite funny. Let's have a look. Let's make that there. There we go. 1 second. Let's go back. So I made her very own Valentine's Day quiz for Valentine's Day with various different things. Answer Smash, this is called. Do you know what the answer to this is? Mamma Mia and microphone. Can you guess what that is yet? What about this one? This is what I made. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. That's it for the day. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Now you have seen what I gave to my missus. I want you to tell me in the other group what you gave to your missus for Valentine's Day, and keep it clean, please. Right, thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a great day. Don't drink too much for Valentine's Day. If you haven't got a Valentine for today, there are plenty of good movies out there to watch. The Perfect Couple is a good movie to watch. It's got nothing to do with romance and everything to do with murder. So that's my recommendation. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. The winners are going to be paid out once you DM me in the other group. Have a good weekend, KB. Have a good weekend, Mags and Danny and Leo and everybody else, and take care.